Can the very powerful President Putin actually lose an election? Let's take a look. This man, 71 years old, has been in power in Russia since Bill Clinton was in office, and he's now contesting for a fifth term. The question is there an outside chance that he might lose? Now, Vladimir Putin is a dictator, and he has changed the entire system of politics in Russia to keep himself in power. He's also maintained the appearance of a functioning democracy while carefully, through a network of controlled and loyal police, intelligence officers, state agencies, media, and the rich and powerful, sort of controlled every aspect of dissent in the country. Russia is due for presidential elections in March this year, and most people assume that Putin will return for a fifth term and stay in office at least until 2030. BBC describes Putin in this election as a Premier League candidate in a league that he controls, with rules that he writes, in an entire political system that's designed for him. And he's the only candidate because most other candidates who have ever stood up against him have either been exiled, or they're in jail, or they've been assassinated. Now, according to the Levada Center, which is a non-government polling center in Russia, Putin enjoys an 80% approval rate among the Russians who are going to vote, which means 80% of the people actually agree with the kind of work he's doing. People who've been speaking to the media in Russia say they don't see an alternative. There's no one with his experience or his ability to control and manage such a complicated country, given the challenges that they're facing. They don't see anyone else. So it's sort of a Putin versus who situation. And through the upcoming election, Putin will also control the entire election mechanism, including the police, the courts, the public prosecutors, and the media. The government also controls who is approved as a candidate or not. There is a small opposition, but it's really only for namesake. They oppose the government on small and unimportant matters just to sort of give the impression that there is a functioning democracy in a functioning opposition. Now, Putin runs the system that has a constant clampdown on dissent and on media in Russia and overseas, with anyone or any Russian who might disagree with him. But now there appears to be a challenger. And here's the interesting thing. This man, Boris Nadezhdin, is a prominent critic of Putin who's decided to run against him. Now, he's been a very vocal critic of the war in Ukraine. On Wednesday, Nadezhdin supporters sent out 24 boxes labeled Nadezhdin 2024 to the Central Election Commission in Moscow. They contained 105,000 signatures nominating him for the election of president. He needs 100,000 signatures, and the media reports tell us that people have been standing out in the biting cold to sign his nomination papers. Now, he's surprised analysts by being a very vocal critic of Putin and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. While the Kremlin has called it a special military operation, he has called it a fatal mistake. He said he will stop the war and end it through negotiations. And he recently said that Putin has practically destroyed key institutions in the modern state of Russia. He's received support from young people, from people who are against the war, and also from the family and the supporters of previous opponents, like I said, who are in exile or in jail. The election office will now, over the next 10 days, examine his application. If there are any irregularities, they can completely disqualify the candidate, which they have done to other candidates in the past. Many political analysts believe that Nadezhdin will not be allowed to run at all because it's too much of a risk for the Kremlin to have any opposition. But there's a twist. There are also critics of the Kremlin who speculate as how this man got this far in such a controlled political system already. Does he have the blessings of Putin? Is there an outside chance, for example, that he is backed by Putin to channel the unhappiness about the war to this one man? Now, Nadezhdin doesn't have the support to win. He's not going to become president. He doesn't even have enough support to dent Putin's vote share. But allowing him to contest will continue to appear that Putin has held a free and fair election. So the final answer is this: no, Putin is not likely to lose. His victory is a foregone conclusion at this point. But there's a hope more than a fact that there's an outside chance in Russia, that there's a large majority of silent people who are not happy with Putin, but they are afraid to say so. So they don't show up in any of the polls and they don't show up in any of the media reports, but they might show up in the election. And that's the hope, really, that a lot of Russians are holding on to. So here's my question to you for the comment section. Do you believe that there could be silent majority oppositions in any country that are unhappy, but are not saying so because they're afraid to, but they may show up in an election? Leave me your comment, like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching.